Hey YouTube /2x. So this is going to be our second video for the starter's guide. If you've already seen the first one, it's basically saying get out of the starting area. So what we're doing right now is I'm assuming I've already reached my destination. I'm now approaching it. As you can see, looking down here below the target, it's actually a full-size station. It's not like one of the little orbitals. You do want the full-size station whenever you get to your target. So I'll go ahead and slow down a little bit more so that way we can kind of get a glance at it. If you go over here to system map, you see my cursor moving down here at the bottom, system map. What you can do is, it'll take a few moments, it's going to pop up. There we are. In here, it'll show you what kinds of areas there are, what kind of stations there are, things like that. You want a full-size station of some form. So you don't want one of those little ones. So I'll go ahead and exit out of here. So here's where I'm heading. Here's my starting area. Gonna ease our way in. So you notice my speed going up and down on the right. In Super Cruise, it's a lot less responsive. So keep that in mind. Just because I've stopped all the way, it's taking a little bit to actually get to that point. So I prefer to kind of stay in the blue. Now you don't have to, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what your speed is as long as it's not so fast you overshoot. You need to be under 300 kilometers a second when you get within 1,000 megameter. So, watch, I'll just go ahead and drop this off. I'm dropping in. As long as you're within that 999 kilometer to 1 kilometer, it'll drop you in the area roughly. So, the very first thing that I found important about docking, something that they don't mention in any of the guides that I found yet. So aim at your station, target it. Now if you look down here, you see the station rotating the same way it's rotating on screen. But you see there's a little feature down here in the bottom left on my green station, which yours will probably be the weird orangish yellow color. You see those tiny little arrows pointing down? Those arrows actually point to the entrance. Do you know how many times I looped a station trying to figure out where the entrance was? Because I popped up like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know where the entrance is. Well, I think it spins around that. So it's not there, so it should be down here below. Oh, I got somebody messaging me right now. Yep. And if you're bounty hunting, resource extraction is a good place to go, as one of my now followers is saying. As a side note, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to contact me in game. I have no problem talking to people. Just because it's one of those things where somebody helps you out, and I'd be more than happy to do so. So you notice I put some extra points into engine. So now if you look, you see it hasn't really changed in orientation because it's basically in relation to me is how it's facing. So as I pivot back, I'm going to slow down so I don't run into anything. See those arrows? There you are. They're still pointing to the letterbox. They're saying, hey, here's where your entrance is. As you can see, the entrance is right there. But see all those arrows on the pivot? They're pointing straight at that letterbox saying, hey, here's where you need to go. Here's your entrance. So, just another nice little tip for some of these stations that it's hard to tell which side's which. So, I'll go ahead and as I get closer, when I slow down and pivot back, you'll actually see...
Scan detected.
Yes, go ahead and scan me. There's the actual letterbox, also on the little target representation. So those arrows pointing at the letterbox kind of let you know what's going on. And then as I line up, you see the letterbox is now even with me. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and request permission. If you don't request permission, you will die a very quick death. Request docking. Wait, I'm going to pad 14. Now, as a tip I've found to help you when you're inside the station, you cannot boost if your landing gear's down. A lot of people have accidentally killed themselves by slamming into that back wall. So, just go ahead and drop your landing gear before you even get in the front door. This also lowers your overall speed so you can't go too fast easily. You can still do it. So, just establish your rotation to work gently with the rotation of the actual structure. Speed up just a little bit. I can already see 14. You won't always be able to see it right away. The very first thing I recommend you do once you clear this door and you know you've cleared the door, go ahead and pull back a little bit. now I'm not in the middle of the doorway. I don't have to worry about getting rear-ended. You can't go down or whatever. I did that just to kind of show. If you don't know where your point is, clear the doorway, kind of slide out of the way like that, and then go ahead and just stop and look around to see if you can find your docking location. Another note, when you go to land, you're going to notice that your center pad here is going to change. It's going to change to a landing mode. There we are. Mine caught a little bit late. So, ignore what I'm doing right now. I don't like mapping a backup button that often, so I kind of cheat. Alright, so I'm going to lower just a little bit so you can actually see my ship. So there, you see there's a little representation of my ship there. As I pivot, it pivots. Now, you want to get both of these lines blue, like so. Outside of that, it doesn't matter if you're dead on. You can be off pretty far, but this shows you your general relation to the pad itself. So as you can see, as I go up and down, it shows me moving around. Yes, dead center's what you want ideally, but in all honesty, you don't really need it. Like, let's say I'm right about here, should still work. Yeah, right about there-ish. I should still be able to get it. And, you know, make sure you land at a safe speed, but, I mean, if you're worried about it, put extra power over into your subsystems. That way it boosts your shield a bit. And you can hit the pad at a pretty decent clip. No damage. See? I didn't hurt myself, but I didn't finish landing. But once I got within the rough position, now it's going to kind of adjust me and pull me up a little bit. There you go, I'm in. So there's a lot of leeway for docking. Don't worry about hitting the pad too hard right away, especially if you put the extra points into your shields. I've seen people kind of mess around and try to do it over and over and over again. The trick is, this is important, when you're landing, if you're not facing up, so you saw the little rectangle, if I'm not facing up, then when I go to land, it's not going to catch. You'll have to do a complete pivot in order to get it to grab you. You have to face this way. Back in earlier versions of the game, it glitched all the time. You'd end up facing all sorts of places, backwards, forwards, whatever. I've seen videos of people landing on top of each other because somebody was already taking up their pad. That's not really the case anymore. Don't worry about it. So, next thing I recommend, always do this. Saves you a lot of time and hassle and the potential of somebody hitting your ship while they're trying to land themselves. Enter the hangar. Now, while you're entering the hangar, you can sit here and watch the video as it goes in, or you can just go ahead and go to your starport services. Gives you something to do while it's doing that. If you need to refuel, you come in here, you buy your fuel, repair, whatever you may need to do. Now, when you go to outfitting, you have to be all the way back and all the way in order for outfitting to engage. So, worry about that when you actually get in. Now, if you've been doing what I've been talking about, you'll have all these different options in here. Nothing's really... Oh, I forgot I killed somebody on the way here. Yeah, somebody pulled me over in a Sidewinder. Go figure. So, if you have bounties, that's where you go into your contacts list. If you have any form of fines or bounties on yourself that you need to pay, right here. Go to your contacts and your local security office. You'll see if you have fines or anything like that. If you've gone and done a war zone, your combat bonds are going to be in here. If there is a black market in your area, it's going to be in there. I do not recommend you go to a black market in a large station like this. You want to go to a black market on one of those little tiny orbital stations. There's no security there normally, so you won't get scanned on the way in and pick up a big fine, because they always fine you for more than your cargo's worth. So, that said, where you really want to go is down here, Universal Cartographics. Open that up. I'm too close to where I just scanned, so it's not going to work. But as you can see, these are places I've scanned. This is money I could get if I was far enough away. As you see in the bottom right-hand corner here, it says I have to be at least 20 light years away from the source to trade. If you followed my instructions and you try to get as far away as you can initially, you'll probably have a bunch of these you can sell on the way in. So you'll pick up some quick money. You hopefully won't have damaged your ship, and it would be a pretty simple job to repair it if you did. But you lose these if you die. So sell them once you get far enough away. Get that money. Don't lose it. Alright, so if you go into commodities market, you can buy and sell things in here. I'm not really much of a trader. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. I know plenty of other people that have great training videos out there for people that want to go into trading. I'm primarily a bounty hunter. That said, decide early what you want to do. You're not going to be stuck in it, but it doesn't hurt to have kind of a goal to move you towards your next steps. So if you go to your shipyard here, this is your goals. This is what you're going to be seeing. So here's the default Sidewinder. Imperial Clipper. It's a decent ship. I've heard people say they love it. People say they hate it. That's your choice. I try not to pressure people too hard one way or the other to get a specific ship type. If you're going to be doing trading, the hauler is your next logical step up. This is the next ship you want to get if you want to go trading. It has a decent amount of cargo for how little it is, and it's pretty cheap. It's only 52,000 credits. You can get that pretty quickly. It's not something you want to stay in for too long because you're not going to move that much cargo for a long period of time. Your next step up, no, not that. If you're going to be doing trading, your next step is probably going to be a Cobra. If you're doing combat, your next step up is actually a Cobra as well, because Cobra kind of does everything. The Cobra Mark III is a pretty versatile ship. It does a little bit of everything. After you've grown a little bit more, that's where you could get into your Type 6. Be like, you know what? I've got a little more money. I want to do more trading. Type 6, this will move some decent cargo for you. Then after that, then you get into your Type 9 or Type 7. You get into those bigger ships. Adder's kind of an in-between ship. It's kind of like a slightly graded down version of a Cobra. So it's also another nice little starter ship. It kind of does a little bit of everything. If you're heading into your combat field, though, the direction I did, either piracy or if you're going to be a bounty hunter, Eagle. Eagle is your next step up from your Sidewinder. So you want to head into this Eagle. Say, you know what? This is what I want. I want to go to an Eagle. So after you get into your Eagle, all right, doing pretty well in your Eagle. You might get a little more comfortable with it. You'll probably lose a couple of Eagles. Eagles die pretty quickly. They're paper thin. That's where you start looking to see if you can find yourself. We don't have one here, of course. You're going to find a Viper. A Viper is the next logical step up for somebody doing combat. They're not too expensive. Oh, here it is. I shot right by it. Look at me. So, yes, a Viper. This is your next logical step up from an Eagle. So it's a little bit more money, but the boost you get for what this ship can do, I flew one of these for a while because it was the best combat ship that was really available. The Cobra is a decent combat ship, but it's not quite as maneuverable as the Viper was. Now we have the extra steps. I have one stored here. So after your Viper and or Cobra, depending on how you want to do it, this is really your next step in the game if you're doing combat. It's going to be this Vulture. This is a decent ship. It's only got 2 hard points, but they're big. So 2 large hard points. You do a lot of damage to those things. It's highly maneuverable. Its maneuverability is really up there. So that's really your next step. After that, that's where you start getting people kind of branch off and pick their different paths and things like that. Some people like the Python. Some people like the Fer-de-Lance. It's really about what you want to do, which direction you want to go, what you're really looking for. Maneuverability or firepower or whatever it is. If you're flying solo, if you're flying in a group, there's a lot of those things to consider. But initially, set those goals. Say, I want to get to this ship. I'm going to focus all my attention on earning money to get to this specific ship. That said, never fly something you can't afford to lose. You need to make sure that you're checking what it is going to cost you to replace your current ship. Right now, for the ship I have, on this right-hand side, you see the rebuy cost. So you see my name, combat rank, trade rank, explorer rank, my current money balance, but right below that, rebuy costs. This is how much it would cost me to buy this ship again if I need to, if I get blown up. Keep this number in mind. I recommend keeping at least twice what your ship is worth in your bank account at all times. That said, I also recommend keeping multiple ships. You don't have to keep like 5 or 6 ships, but for example, when I upgrade, I'm getting ready to work towards a Fer-de-Lance. I'm kind of happy with where my Vulture's at right now. I'm not going to sell the Vulture. I'm going to have it as a fallback. If absolute worst case scenario, somehow or other I lose all my money and lose the Fer-de-Lance, I'll still have this Vulture sitting here fully geared out, ready to go bounty hunting again, immediately available for me. I'll just fly back, start using it again. So it's one of those things to keep in mind. Keep that backup strategy in your head. Hey, I don't want to lose everything. There's plenty of horror stories. Go on Reddit and go take a look. There's so many people saying, oh my gosh, I lost everything because I flew it and I didn't have insurance. I didn't have enough money. Right now, Insurance, if you go through the finance tabs, see, it does, I don't have any, so it doesn't tell you. Insurance rates are different depending upon players. Keep that in mind as well. Not everybody has the same rate. I'm a beta backer, so my insurance rate is a little bit better than some of other people's. But alpha backers have me beat by an even higher margin. So if you have used insurance, then you're going to end up with basically a loan you have to pay off. It's like a loan shark. You have to slowly start chipping away at how much they owe you, and you have to work your way out of that. So keep that in mind as well, because you don't want to give away money. It's a lot easier just to keep that spare cash on hand. With your free Sidewinder, as you replace systems, you're slowly going to start accruing a rebuy cost. And then when you swap out to a whole new ship, you have the initial ship purchase plus all the equipment you've purchased. So keep that in mind as well. But set that goal for yourself. Really say, you know what? This is what I want. This is where I'm heading. That's one of the big things with Elite. You're not in here doing missions. You're not in here saying, oh, I need to go do X for so-and-so or Y for so-and-so. You're really looking out for what you want to get out of the game. If you want to be a bounty hunter, be a bounty hunter. You want to be a pirate, be a pirate. You want to be a trader, be a trader. It's entirely up to you. I know some people love trading. It makes them happy. They love going from point A to point B. Maybe they play music in the background. Maybe they read a book while they're doing it. They think it's great. If you ever watch Zero Punctuation with Yahtzee, he says he loves that. That's his favorite part, is going from point A to point B. Buy stuff here low, sell it high over here, and then buy some other stuff to take back. Whatever works for you, whatever makes you happy in the game, that's the whole point of the game. You can literally do anything. There are missions. They're going to be in the bulletin board. There's only a couple here, but they're not obtainable for me. They probably need me to move stuff around. Yeah, see, it's requiring me to have cargo space. I don't have any. I bet this is, yep. They want me to bring them 50 things. There's no way I could ever do that in a Sidewinder. I'd need a bigger ship. So there's 2 reasons a mission could be unattainable. Either you don't have the gear for it, or the faction doesn't trust you enough. I am allied with the Empire, so it's not that they don't trust me. It's that I physically can't do this because my ship, as currently fitted out, can't do the mission. So keep that in mind. Unobtainable is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that there's some reason you can't do it. Yeah, there'll be little missions to move things around or pick up things. Look to make sure something's legal or illegal. Just because you picked it up from the controlling faction doesn't mean you won't get in trouble for doing it. Activity considered illegal. They want me to bring in stolen goods. So I'm not going to do this. Even if I did have the ship capability at the moment. So make sure you're paying attention. Also pay attention to who is giving the mission. That's who this is over on the right-hand side. So, Empire Pact. Who's the Empire Pact? Let me look on the right. Ah, here we are. So you can see the different people. So the first 3 that you have at the very top of this initial screen for reputation: Federation, Empire, and Alliance. The 3 big ones in the game. There's little subgroups all over the place, but I mean, if they like you or dislike you, it's not as big of a deal as if the big ones like you or dislike you. So, Empire Pact. They have the Empire symbol next to them, and it says that their allegiance is with the Empire. That means if I do things to make them happy, it makes the whole Empire happy with me. That's how come I'm allied with the Empire. See, allied, reputation, allied. I'm also a count. That's a rank. We'll get into that later. And you can see here, anyone that is a direct link to the Empire, I'm automatically allied with. They already like me because the Empire likes me. When I initially came in this area, they said greetings to trusted ally. So you'll see I'm unfriendly with some of these other ones, though. There's actually a couple places I go to, I'm downright hostile because it's pirate factions. They don't like me at all because I kill them a lot. So Pekuni Solutions, they're not exactly happy with me. They pretty much do piracy. They're a business that does things in the area, but they're really a piracy business is what it boils down to. Future Pekuni, they don't particularly care for me. I've blown up quite a few of their people too. The little red triangle pointing down is because I've lost some more rep here recently. I'm probably about ready to turn on friendly with them. I'm not quite there yet. On that note, you'll hear people talk about the system status. These numbers here have nothing to do with you. there's a lot of confusion on this. These numbers are actually specifically for the control of your system, the entire star system I'm currently in. So in this solar system I'm currently at, the Empire Pack controls 61% of it. Empire League controls 16% of it. Pakuni here 6, and then these little guys down here at the bottom 9. So these are not my ratings for my reputation with them. When you complete missions, you'll get little pop-ups talking about this number. It's not your number, it's their control of the whole system. When you get these people in similar numbers, they go to civil war. You can see that they're in civil war with each other now. So they're currently in the middle of a power struggle, which is good and bad. It creates a conflict zone, so it's a place that you can go and earn some money if you want to go do a bunch of fighting. Conflict zones can be dangerous unless you got a little bit better ship, so try to kind of steer away from those until you get to at least probably, I'd say, a Viper, if not higher. One of the other things to keep in mind here, over here in your modules are important as well. There's a lot of power usage information in here. Each of these little items, it tells me how much of the usage it does in percentages. So you can set, you see the priorities here are changing as I add and remove groups. So you see all these things are set at 2s. There's some things you can put at a higher number. The higher the number, the more likely it is to get turned off if you run out of power or if there's a problem with your power. I recommend, even if you're not close, like right now it says output down at the bottom, it says 100%, usage is 84. So I've got a little bit of leeway before I start having to worry about power issues. But what if something goes wrong and I'm in the middle of a fight? So I usually set the frame shift drive, if I have a fuel scoop, and then I don't have one because I don't have any cargo, but if you have a cargo hatch, set that. Set all these to 3 or higher, 4 even. On my Vulture I have them set as 4s. So what this does is, if I lose power, these systems lose power first before my other important ones. You need things like your thrusters. I always put thrusters at 1. Shield Drainer, I always put that at 1. Here's cargo hatch. I knew I'd have one somewhere, so I put that as the 3. Pulse lasers, you probably want these at like a 2. Or whatever else you have in that general area. Power distributor, I usually set that at a 1. Life support, ironically enough, life support you can leave it at 2. Because you can survive a couple of minutes while running away with no life support. So that's usually about where I set all my stuff. So this gives me a little bit of leeway. So everything in group 3 here, I could now theoretically lose power on temporarily and still keep fighting. Because sometimes it's all a matter of getting through your current fight and not dying. Even if you're a trader, sometimes you got to fight as a trader because somebody's trying to rob you. So keep that in mind, folks. But yeah, just a little bit more information about getting yourself set up and kind of getting that goal. Going over a couple of the little systems on the right-hand side as well. Just some more tips and tricks for all the people out there. I did want to cover one more section of this right screen. We've already kind of glanced at this. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's just your fire groups. Cargo, if you had cargo, it'd be here. You have options for either jettisoning or abandoning cargo. Jettison means you've just dropped it. If somebody picks it up, it's illegal. Abandon means if you drop it and anybody picks it up, they're legally allowed to have it. It's a good way to trade between players. Functions over here. Faction. Faction only becomes available if you're in a war zone. Landing gear, cargo scoop, these are kind of obvious things. Beacon, if you're in a wing, you can drop a wing beacon so your wing mates can drop into your area. I'll do a video on that later, probably with one of my other friends that's online playing. Silent running. Silent running is great for sneaking around. It is very dangerous because when you turn this off, it closes all of your heat vents on your ship. You start overheating pretty quickly. So that's more of a smuggling technique. We can get to that at a later time. Ship lights. It's literally the lights on the ship. So you can kind of see it off the left now. It's headlights on your ship. They come in handy. This is your flight assist on and off. What mode you want, hold input, or if you want it to be toggle. Me personally, I prefer hold input, that way I can let go, but we'll get into that at a later time. Rotational correction, turret modes, pre-flight checks. Pre-flight checks are kind of cool. Basically make sure you understand all your buttons. So you guys have already seen that if you're watching this and you're playing the game. Report crimes against me. This is a nice little thing here. I usually leave it off because I'm flying with other people. If you leave it on, anyone who shoots your ship and you're not justified in being shot, in other words, you're not a criminal, they get reported to the local authorities. In effect, it calls 911 for you, or 999, depending on where you're at. So it calls the cops and says, hey, I've been attacked. That other person, they now get either a fine or a bounty, depending on what they've done. And the local law enforcement is going to start working their way towards you if there are cops in that area. So if they're committing a crime and they keep it up, and if you're not able to fight them off and you just kind of hold them off, eventually the cops will show up and start shooting at them. It takes a while for that. You're better off fighting or running. But yeah, pick what you want to do. Orbital lines, these are the little lines that you see in Super Cruise. I turn them off. I don't like them. Some people like them on. Interface brightness, straightforward. Gun sight mode, trailing or leading. So if you're shooting some sort of weapon that uses an ammo that actually has to lead the target, like cannons, they don't just hit the target. They actually shoot and they have a trajectory, and they'll follow that trajectory in a straight line, more or less. So if I'm aiming and targeting at somebody, either I aim ahead of them or I aim on them. So it depends on where the gun sight's going to go. I can actually show that in a later video if anybody's interested. Just mention it in the comments. You have your sensor scales, reboot, repair. If you've had a system completely blown out, like somebody blew out your drives and maybe they left, they're like, haha, I got him, and then they left, you can do reboot, repair. It turns your system down, and it's going to scavenge some parts from some of the other systems and then try to fix you. So it'll fix that one system, but it's going to do damage to the other ones. So basically it's enough to hobble back and make it slowly back to a location you can actually get fixed at properly. But it's basically just the last-ditch effort to get you up and running so you can get to someplace better and get fixed. And self-destruct. That's pretty self-explanatory. But that's it. That's everything on the right-hand side. So I figured I'd go ahead and cover that since we kind of delved a little bit into it. But that's it for this video, folks. If you like it, go ahead and hit like. Feel free to subscribe. I am going to keep putting more and more starter guide videos up. I'm going to try to get at least 3 or 4 of them up here in the next day or so. That way can kind of help some of the new folks, because I know there's a lot of you out there. And we're enjoying having the extra people in the game, but I know a lot of people are having a hard time getting their feet under them. So here's hoping we can help.